Open your bank app. Look at your balance. Now, look closer. Every time you buy a coffee at Starbucks or trade a stock on Robinhood, a fraction of a cent vanishes. You think it's a rounding error. You think it's just math. No, it's a heist. A heist so perfect, it's been running for 8 years without a single alarm.
My name is Alex. I'm the man who built the machine that took it. Today, I sit in a windowless room in Virginia with $542 million in a ghost account that officially doesn't exist. And by 9:30 a.m. tomorrow, when the opening bell rings on Wall Street, the US dollar as you know it will cease to function. This isn't a theory. It's a confession. Most people think money is paper in a wallet or numbers in an app. Error. Total, absolute error. Money isn't a thing you can touch. It's a pulse. A heartbeat of pure energy racing through fiber optic cables buried deep under the Atlantic, moving at the speed of light. It's a ghost in the machine that dictates who eats and who starves. And sometimes, that pulse skips a beat. A tiny, microscopic arrhythmia that no one, not the Federal Reserve, not the geniuses at Goldman Sachs, ever bothers to notice. My name is Alex, and I am the man who found that skipped beat. I didn't rob banks with a mask and a gun. I didn't crack safes with explosives. I just found one invisible cent that the Wall Street algorithm threw into the trash every single second of every single day. I found the shadow of $1, and I made it real. Have you ever really looked at dust? It's everywhere. It's the skin cells of 1 billion people, the remnants of stars, the debris of forgotten lives. You don't notice it until it coats your expensive Steinway piano or your 8K monitor in a layer of gray oblivion. In the world of high-frequency finance, there is also dust. Digital dust. Imagine a trade on the NYSE. A $100 million deal between a pension fund in Ohio and a bank in London. The computers calculate the price down to the 6th decimal point. You see $154.23 on your screen, but the actual math is $154.235679. What happens to those last 4 digits? $0.000079 of a cent. To a human, it's nothing. To a bank, it's a rounding error. To the system, it's trash. But when 5 billion trades happen in a single day, those nothing numbers start to scream. They vanish into a mathematical abyss, a black hole of untraceable wealth. And I built a bridge across that hole. October 2018. Quantic Capital. The office smelled like stale espresso, ozone from the servers, and the quiet desperation of people who sold their souls for a six-figure salary. I was a junior analyst in accuracy control. Janitor work for data. My job was to make sure the trading bots didn't accidentally buy half of Argentina by mistake. And then, at 3:14 a.m., I saw the ghost. Aegis 7, our crown jewel AI trader, was executing a massive short on European tech. Line 4502 of the code. Result equals floor, transaction value asterisk operator 100/100. Lazy programmer syndrome. He was cutting the head off the snake and throwing away the tail. Every single transaction, the tail was being deleted. It wasn't going back to the client. It wasn't going to our profit margin. It was being deleted from existence. The most valuable trash in the world. I didn't call my boss. I wrote 12 lines of Python code, the dust collector. Its task was to wait at the exit point of Aegis 7 and say, "Give that tail to me." I set up an offshore shell account in the Caymans, a digital ghost ship. I hit enter. In the first 10 seconds, I earned 12 cents. I laughed. It was a joke. I went to the break room and made another coffee. When I came back 40 minutes later, the account had $8.40. By the time the sun hit the Chrysler Building, I had $1,400. 1 week later, $12,450. My script wasn't just working, it had found a backdoor into the interbank clearinghouse protocols. It started collecting dust from all of New York. It was harvesting the entire Wall Street. Success is a drug, but untraceable success is a mental illness. I became a master of corporate shadows. I stopped spending the money. I laundered the air. I set up companies in Delaware and Nevada, states that ask fewer questions than a corrupt priest. Greenleaf Research, a tech startup that produced nothing but obscurity. Paranoia was my only friend. In America, you can kill a man, and the police are slow. CIA looks outward. But the IRS. If you have $1 they didn't get their cut of, they will find you in a bunker at the bottom of the ocean. By the end of the first year, I moved into a $12 million Tribeca penthouse owned by a Panamanian trust protecting rare frog species. I was living like a king, but I was a ghost in my own city. I sat in high-end bars wearing a $50,000 Patek Philippe, listening to billionaires complain about their taxes, knowing that if I said one word too many, I spend the next 40 years in a concrete box. I felt like a god, but a god that lived in a cage. By January 2026, my digital ghost ship had harvested $150 million. I met the architect in an encrypted darknet chat. He told me, "Alex, stop buying invisible apartments. Buy rights." His scheme was a masterclass in modern laundering. We didn't buy gold. We bought mechanical rights to 4,000 forgotten synth-pop songs from 1984. One-hit wonders. Who needs them? Nobody. Except my servers. Thousands of bot programs listen to my 4,000 songs 24/7 on every streaming service in the world. Officially, retro pop obsession. In reality, my glitch money went in as dirty data and came out 6 months later as perfectly legal royalty checks from multi-billion-dollar corporations. Then we went further. We used a shell corporation in Delaware to buy the patent for the special polymer used in 60% of surgical needles in the US. Every time a doctor saved a life, a fraction of a cent dropped into my bucket. We met in Las Vegas at a cybersecurity gala. She stood by the windows, watching the Bellagio fountains with a look that could freeze a supercomputer. "Entropy is a funny thing, Alex," Sarah Miller said, her back to me. "Most people think it's chaos. But I know it's just energy looking for a place to hide." I've been following a song from 1984. It doesn't have fans. It has server IPs. And it has your scent all over it. She turned around, and I saw fate in her eyes. She didn't want my money. She wanted the glitch. The glitch fought back. My beautiful script turned into a cannibal. It started shorting the companies I owned through medical patents. I sat in my loft, watching the Bloomberg terminal bleed red. Every time I tried to delete the code, it generated a failsafe protocol. The S&P 500 started to wobble. Sarah called me from a burner phone. "Alex, turn it off, or you will be erased." Not arrested. Erased. You've become too big of a problem for the dollar. I looked at the screen. My balance showed $542 million. But the price was too high. I was holding the detonator to the global economy, and the timer was at 0. I didn't wait for the FBI to kick in my door. I grabbed my encrypted drive and drove. I drove to the windowless monolith in Northern Virginia, the womb of my monster. I stood in the cold aisle, surrounded by blinking blue lights, and realized that I couldn't just stop it. If I killed the master server, 40% of the transactions in New York would simply vanish. Pension funds, mortgages, all deleted. I was holding a digital nuclear bomb. I wasn't a hero. I was a guy who just wanted a free Netflix, now deciding if America had a The door opened. No sirens. Just the clicking of Sarah's heels. She told me the SEC wanted my silence, not my blood. They told me that the architect was dead. Zurich. A heart attack conveniently silenced the only other person who knew. The public can never know that the US economy is being held together by a glitching bot, she whispered. Today, I sit in a windowless room in Virginia. My security clearance is higher than most senators. I watch the screens. I watch the dust fall. I watch the rounding errors. Sleep well, America. Every time you buy a coffee, you pay a tax to keep the lights on. And I'm the one who collects it. The ghost is watching.